and welcome to a long overdue common room. Now, we're doing this for a couple of reasons. One, we've been terrible. We haven't been doing them. You might have got the impression that life has been a little busy. That's why we finished the letters to children and then stopped for the rest of the month. But hopefully you'd have seen, or you'd listened to our first episode on the Latin letters on Tuesday, and you would have heard some interesting plans that Matt had in mind. So it seems only appropriate that rather than making you wait until the next Tuesday, we'd have a common room and we'd give some life updates. Matthew, why don't you go first?
Yeah, at the time of recording, I am officially an engaged man.
Yay! Here's to the idiocy of women who are our betters.
Cheers.
I mean,
we can all
it
drink
genuinely is it genuinely is true. I mean, she is far, far better than me. But for some reason she loves me. And so I'm not going to argue against it.
We're confused as well. But why don't you walk us through it? How did it all happen, and what were the adventures that happened along the way?
Oh, I feel like I should here, give me 1 second. You guys are about to see my messy apartment.
With your Christmas tree
still up. You're not going to be able to get away with that. I know. You're not going to be able to get away with that when you're no longer a bachelor.
I know. You know what? This is my excuse. I actually usually keep a decently clean apartment, but it's amazing when there's a lot going on with work at the same time that this proposal and stuff on my mind. The apartment went. And I'll just blame it on, maybe it was for the proposal. First of all, here she is. This is
yay.
Oh, yay.
Oh, what's that buzzing?
Andrew, did you just move something?
That was an aggressive buzzing.
Is there still a buzzing?
Not now.
It just stopped. It was that was the loudest I think I've heard.
Wow.
We're good to go though. Yes, so her name is Mary Margaret for people. I guess I've never really given much of the background there and with the nice thing with the common room. So I guess I'll just start with the engagement. So that almost went off with hiccups. So the original plan was, in a nutshell, I was coming in on a fake flight Saturday and then was actually coming in Friday into Washington, D.C. So she was not going to know I was there. I had boots on the ground with one of her good friends and her sister to get her to the St. Matthew's Cathedral that I needed a very special spot in her spiritual journey. And then I had a dinner scheduled for her and I, just so we could experience the excitement together individually. And then I had a group of maybe 12 of her friends, plus her mom and dad flew in to do a post-engagement party. And then a blessing, an engagement couple blessing in the Catholic faith for the priest. And then he blessed the ring. So that was all was supposed to be planned. Well, fast forward Thursday, the night before I'm flying out, she had some work stuff change. And she's like, you know what, babe, I'll actually just fly in Saturday morning when you get in. And we can just land at the same time and ride together back to Alexandria. I'm like, uh-oh. Audible needs to be called here. So I had the bag, the entire proposal was a complete surprise still, but I just told her, hey, my work thing on Friday actually got moved, so I can move my flight and come in Friday. Let's just do a fun last-minute dinner Friday night in D.C. So that was my excuse to get her back in on Friday. So there was no longer the surprise of her walking into a church and seeing me and being like, oh, but
which I pointed out at the time that would she would have known immediately. If you were in DC and you were not meant to be in DC, she would know it's coming. So this at least gave you a few minutes or seconds longer of suspension. Yes. It's like, is this happening? Marie didn't realize I was proposing literally until I was on my knee.
I do get that, because you do the run up. At least I did the run up, and probably similar to yourself. You don't really get on the knee until after your bit of your spiel. So if you just kind of speak words of affirmation to your girlfriend, typically she's not really realizing this is building, and so you're spending about 30, 45 seconds telling her.
It was a good hint.
But I was just I've got her in this little side chapel for St. Anthony of Padua. In St. Matthew's Cathedral, and there's no one in there, which was a grace of God in the entire church. And so I'm just kind of still whispering quietly, just telling her all
nobody's in church. That's God's grace.
And then,
I'm not sure how you did it in your
let's just
church.
assume
That's
it was
the
a small
never
window
mind.
of time. Oh. But anyways, like it just went off beautifully. The blessing was stunning from the priest. I didn't know it was like an actual more like mini 5 to 10 minute ceremony. And then what was also kind of a fun little surprise was she called all of her family members kind of from the beginning of dinner to the end very quickly. And her parents didn't pick up, which was wonderful, actually. But you can imagine it had to be so hard for her parents. They know they're going to see her within an hour and a half, so they knew the bigger picture. But can you imagine her mom? She calls her mom 3 different times.
Oh, and wow.
I'm like, please don't answer. Please don't answer. And she didn't. And so then they kind of cried when they embraced when she saw them in a surprise. So yeah, that's the, and then we had the whole weekend, and we've probably got our venue and our date too. I mean, by the grace of God, how everything comes about.
Wow.
Yeah. It'll probably be in Washington, D.C. But we were at this brunch spot, and we did not know that they did wedding venues. And it's just a really beautiful spot. I probably won't say more at this stage in case it doesn't happen. But it was just a really beautiful spot. And then we started chatting with them, and they had a date available. And then we just started, everything fell together in a really unique way. And it's like all inclusive where they do the food, the bar. And we're like, wow, this might actually just make life really easy.
That's fantastic.
It's right around the budget that we were setting. So yeah, God's hand's just been in it from the beginning. Same way, like he set us up back in June by the friend of mine, Philip Munoz, who you guys actually know Philip Munoz because he did the Severe Mercy episode. He was on here. So that man is responsible for setting us up to Philip. But yeah, he's the one that just brought us together, and the rest was history. I mean, in May, I had no idea I was going to be engaged by March. You know, you just kind of start accepting and trying to just you just surrender to God's will when you get 32 and you're still single. You're like, you know what, God, maybe I just need to find to join happiness and a different calling with you, Lord. Maybe there's something else, and then wham, out of nowhere.
Yeah. You know, there aren't any formulas for it, but Kristen and I had both kind of resigned ourselves to, hey, maybe this is going to happen or not going to happen. But I have great friends. I've got great relationships and family and work that that honors the kingdom. And so godliness with contentment is great gain. I hated those people who said, well, just stop looking for it and then it'll happen. I mean, there aren't any formulas. But for me, when it was right, we just knew. We knew very quickly. It doesn't happen for all of our people. And then our engagement was very spontaneous. It was the end of the week of spending time together in person for the first time. And so we had a very spontaneous initial ask. And then a few months later at spring break, I came out to Sarasota and did what we called the commodities exchange there on Siesta Key. So we had a couple. Yeah, that's great.
I will say, Andrew, speaking to what you just said, I will say so many people told me over the years, you'll just know. Even family members, like, I just know you'll know. Because there was plenty of wonderful relationships that I had where you're close, you're rationalizing it, you wonder, could this have been it? When you're pursuing people, you start to almost have like a thought of your vision of who would be your, particularly after you've dated. I mean, I had done plenty of dating prior up until this point. And so you kind of get a sense of who you are, what you're looking for.
They were all trash, in the end, Margaret. Trash.
No, if any of my exes are listening to this, they're wonderful human beings.
What does St. Paul say? All this I count as rubbish for the, for the love of God.
It's not the word he uses.
But I guess where I'm going with this is like, I now get it. Like, you do know. It just kind of all clicks, and you couldn't have scripted it. You couldn't have understood it. But I didn't. I mean, this whole step of the way, I've never once second guessed it. I've never had to rationalize my way into it. Well, maybe she is good enough. Maybe she's just over that threshold. It's like, no, I couldn't imagine myself with a singular another human being. And I'm like madly in love with this person, and I don't want to do life without them. It's like, it was really that easy. But it was painful to find that person, I guess, if you want to say it that way. But it was blatantly obvious when I did.
See, for me,
I had a friend describe it.
Well, it was certainly wasn't immediate, and it actually took a while. But when I sort of crossed over, it's kind of like a certain author's description of his conversion, kind of like waking up and you just suddenly realize that you're awake. For me, it was I just suddenly realized like, oh, this is the person I'm going to marry.
Yeah.
And there wasn't any nervousness left. Actually, on the wedding day, Marie said, "Are you going to cry when you're going to see me?" I said, "Probably not. I'm sure you look very pretty. I'll make sure I tell you, but no, this just now makes sense to me. You know, just like all of my head, heart, and everything else in between. It was just like, okay, we're going to get married and we're going to start building a life together." It was for me. It was a very strange experience. It wasn't the sort of being swept off my feet or any sort of fluttering of emotion. It was just like I just suddenly woke up one day and was like, okay, time to start planning an engagement and buying a ring. And by the way, our ring is nearly identical to Marie's. Is
it really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Really. I'll send you a picture. But if you could have also proposed on the same day that I proposed, Leap Day. But each to his own.
We were that close in engagements, and that. Mm-hmm. Oh, she loved. It's so much fun to see. She loves the ring. She just constantly kind of looking at it. If she wanted to me, she stressed very firmly. She did not, and I kind of like this, but maybe a slight amount of feedback would have been helpful, but I'm glad in the end not. She did not want to have any say. Like I tried to feel her out a little bit for halo, no halo. I know that's kind of a polarizing thing for people.
And
but
pear
no,
shape
she
or
just
not pear shape.
Yeah, so she just wanted no say, and I'm just honestly in hindsight, I'm so glad.
She's clearly seen the other jewelry you had bought yourself and thought, this man's got taste.
This is the only thing I got. I'm not really sure. A sleep ring. Maybe I get her a sleep ring.
We had the opposite experience, and it was very fruitful for us when we talk about our communication styles. Kristen doesn't open her mouth until she's thought everything through, and it's well decided. I don't open my mouth until I'm about 6 miles away from beginning to think about things, and I process my way to some kind of. And so we were online looking at wedding rings for her. And we're looking at Amazon. We're looking all over the place. We're going through dozens and dozens and dozens. And she saw the one that she liked. And she said, "Oh, I like that one." And I said, because she's kind of like David, I think. I said, "Well, we'll wait till you get really excited about one. We'll wait till you kind of jump up and down." And she's thinking in my head, why is my choice wrong? I just said what I wanted. I don't jump up and down. This is my jumping up and down face. I saw it. I liked it. That's it. Why is my choice wrong? And it took us some doing to go, oh, you said that, and that's it for you. But for me, that would have just been the starting place. So, we bumped our toes along the way. So that's great, though.
You see, I was all ready to shop for the ring solo if necessary. I already had her ring size. I had got enough information out of her during the course of our dating. I was in communication with her sister. I was pretty confident. But Marie kept offering to go with me. And I think it was after the third offer to go with me. If you're ever thinking about getting me a ring, I could come with you if you want. So I said, tell you what, I'm going to a jewelry store this weekend. Why don't we go together? And the hilarious thing is, but nearly all of her preconceived notions as to what she wanted in a ring fell flat when she put the ring on her finger. And we were actually, she needs to go do her taxes. Aw, you scrub up well.
See, you might not cry when you see her, but I gasped and bawled. So,
oh,
and that was a lovely moment for everybody. So you can rob your guests if you want to, but
Well, I had a COVID wedding, so there were very few.
Go ahead,
so
David.
It's fine. But
oh yeah.
So we were sort of going around the counter in Robbins Brothers, and we got about halfway, and then Marie had an appointment to drop off her tax stuff with her tax guy, who is now our tax guy, very close to the store. Mm-hmm. So I said, "Oh, I'll go," and I can't remember what excuse I made. I said I was going to go do something. I didn't. I got into my car. She drove away. I then got out of my car and then carried on. And I'd given the sales associate the wink that, hey, she's not thinking I'm going to go. I'm coming back. And we went round and we did the rest of the circle, and I picked out one. I went, I think that's going to be the one that she likes, and we then put everything back, and then when Marie came back, we then finished it off, and she picked the one that I'd picked. So that was actually
well
that was kind of validating.
Yes.
Isn't it funny how you read? Maybe it's just confirmation bias psychologically, but once you've fallen in love and you've decided this is your person, you're always like, any little thing, like, it's a sign, it's a sign, it's a sign. Like, I find that constantly. It's a sign. Like when we were even picking the wedding venue, we're in this one, then the priest who did the blessing, I wanted to get him some chocolates and some thank yous and stuff. He's got a big sweet tooth, and I'm dropping it off in his office. He's gone for the week, unfortunately. By the time I dropped it off, and he has a book about the actual venue spot on his desk, and like one of those tabletop books. And I'm like, it's a sign. It's a sign. This is it.
You got to be careful. You got to be careful
spot.
with signs, though. You got to be careful with signs, because I proposed to Marie, and then COVID shut the world down. So as signs go, that's not great.
Well, but I think that also it's difficult to live with someone. It's difficult for anybody to live with one of the three of us. You know, anytime you get two sinners under one roof, it's just on like Donkey Kong. But part of that is, I think, our Lord graciously saying, "You've got it. This is gonna be." And some of those assurances. And Matt, by the way, you're gonna start weaving into. The two of you will start weaving a story of how you got engaged. And of course, this part is large right now, but it'll get proportionally smaller, and you'll need the 5-minute version and the 30-second version and the 10-minute version. So how did you guys meet is going to come up a lot. But I think that these assurances in some ways are God's graces, especially when life can get hard. You know, I could be a hard person to live with. And going back to the assurances that God was in this, you know, sometimes is helpful. So she hasn't left yet, and I'm praying that continues to be the case.
Well, and like it's there's so much to like the necessity for the sacramental graces. I've been told
It's impossible. You're a man and a woman living together.
Yeah.
It's a disaster waiting to happen.
Oh gosh, it doesn't wait, and it doesn't wait long.
We've started. We've done once, but we're going to do it again during engagement. The novena to Saint Louis and Zélie Martin.
Jude,
if I'm saying that correctly. They're a married couple saint, and it's just so beautiful. They raised like 6 or 8 kids. I'm getting this roughly correct directionally, but probably half of them or 3/4 became religious life, and another 1 or 2 became a saint. And it's like, what did they do? Such a beautiful marriage somehow, and like the standard to really try to strive for, and just kind of bring them into the process.
We sent our bishop
a terrifying responsibility.
I know.
We a couple of priests and I get together once a month. Okay.
We've got a nasty delay going on, guys. Sorry, viewers. It's about a second or two.
Go ahead, David.
You go for it, Andrew. No, you go for it.
A couple of priests and I get together once a month for Holy Hour. We, meet at an English pub with proper cask ale, and we sent a picture to our bishop, and we said, "Hey, here we are. We're the bishop's men. What else can we do for you?" And he said, "Love God, love your wives, follow the rubrics." And, in that, we have just all the good advice that you could possibly want.
What would be, all right, this could be an interesting way to round this out.
Oh, there's Alexander.
What would be your guys' number one advice for the engagement period and then the first year of marriage?
Oh, is that Alexander coming? Oh, David's muted. One of the things that started with Kristen and me from the very beginning, and I was just talking to, I actually had a listener get in touch with me, over some questions, and wanted to pray and have some spiritual conversations. And one of the things that I advise them, and that has helped Kristen and me, is we keep really short accounts. So if something's bothering me, I'm not going to pout for 3 days and hope that she'll miraculously realize how terribly wrong she is and come crawling back to me, you know, in repentance, like Orwell fantasizes about Psyche. Just if I'm bothered by something, if she did something, I'm going to try to keep short accounts. And she does the same thing. And that way, Mark Hurd, the singer-songwriter, marvelous guy, passed away many years ago. He said, I let the molehill simmer like Vesuvius, then hole up in Pompeii until all hell breaks loose. And we try not to let the mountains simmer, or the molehills simmer, but just kind of lance that boil, kind of, if something's there, if something doesn't feel right, speak about it quickly, pray about it immediately. And oftentimes that, even though that moment is never comfortable, it always helps us to resolve it, but also keeps us from the increasing distance that happens when I have a resentment or she has a resentment that isn't communicated. You know, it's like Screwtape says, if you get a little off the path, you have to turn back. If you stay on the wrong path, pretty soon the divide gets greater. And so I would say keep short accounts. Talk about everything, and let the person know if you're bothered, and be a safe place for them to say, hey, you did this and I didn't like it. So ask forgiveness, make some changes, love each other.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. The ability also to let small things go is exceptionally important. And I would also add to that, speak kindly to each other always.
Yes.
So you can be irritated, that's fine. But speak kindly, speak as you wish would wish to be spoken. Because when you are purposefully short, when you're not really trying your best to say something in the most loving, kind way, it's going to have a lot of barbs on it. And that never leads anywhere good.
Yeah.
But I actually want to do an entire episode on marriage advice for Matt. What we're going to do is I'm going to send out an email, probably maybe the April newsletter, and I will solicit marriage advice from all of our listeners, and then we can have an entire session where we just go through it. And
this would be really fun, actually, because what's so cool is, you know, we get statistics of our listeners' breakdown, and you can kind of see the really active ones versus the passive ones. Passive might be like they listen once a month or twice a month. Active is like they're coming every week. You know, there's a really incredible percentage in amount of devoted people that have been with us in this journey for so long, and they kind of know me, they know you, they know all of us. It'd be really fun, like in a familial aspect way, to hear them kind of give advice. I really like this idea, David.
Yeah. Here's the real question.
I gotta say,
should we have our wives on that
episode?
nah.
I do. So, David, two things too. I got to say, well, one, a compliment to you. Obviously, over 6 years of us recording, I know you very well. I know what peeves you and what ticks you off. I know my things that tick you off, and probably vice versa. There's some things you do, but it's kind of, we both kind of know these things. And it's been incredible to see pre-marriage, post-marriage David. I know I'll do something that would have ticked off pre-marriage David, and he would have actually voiced it. And it might not have been a huge thing, but it would have been a pet peeve of his, where we're just different personalities. And he just lets them all go now. I think your ability to let littler things go because of marriage has just like drastically increased. So now hopefully I'll get the same grace to let more things go as we get going forward. But like, I have noticed that, and I'd imagine marriage is a big thing that kind of trains that skill and that muscle. But I also love your comment. I mean, I'm obviously not married, so this isn't advice, but you gave the advice of never speak negatively of your significant other. That is just something that I have witnessed sometimes before where people will, and it's just, it's just like, speak words of life into them. This is the person that you're going to spend the rest of your life with. Why wouldn't you want to build them up as much as possible?
So never speak, unkind words to them, but never speak unkind words about them. I had a youth pastor once who said, "Why would I ever criticize my wife? She is my body. She and I are one. Why would I criticize my own body?"
Yes.
I love what David said about letting the little things go.
And she chose me.
Yeah, exactly. And she continues to. Early on when we moved into our first apartment, we had these enormous long conversations and disagreements about where to hang this picture, where to put that mug rack or whatever. And at the back of it, I realized that I was worried, is there going to be enough space for me? in this thing that we're doing, or is she hogging all the good space? And so now I realize when we move in somewhere, sure, put that there. If I don't like it, we can put another nail in the wall and we can move it around. And so how important is it is a good question. And yes, there will be space, for both of you. So those negotiations seemed very fraught early on, and now we've learned how to get through that.
Well, I'm excited. This is going to be the making of you. Whip you into shape finally.
And I guess
the final thing I'll leave, the final thing I'll leave with the listeners who are watching this, at least, is just to thank you for all of the community that Pints with Jack is. I actually had messages come in when people heard that I was seriously dating someone, and you guys obviously haven't heard that I was going to propose. That's going to be released, I think, in the next episode that comes out.
It would have actually they'll have heard it on Tuesday. This is coming out on the following Saturday.
I love it. So you guys will have heard that too. I got Slack messages and emails just like saying people like literally pointing out that they've been praying for this. And so it just really means a lot that people are very emotionally invested in this journey. And let me just say, your prayers have been answered beyond my wildest dreams.
I have a parishioner who is binging Pints with Jack, and she's already trudging on through Great Divorce, which she loves. But when I told her that you were about to get engaged, she was just tickled because she hasn't gotten to our current episodes yet. So, yeah.
Well, we had one of the listeners, when they sent us a message, they were doing the same thing. And they said, "This is the state of my world." It's like, David has just met Marie.
It is fun to hear those. I do love when people have sent those messages in the past. I'm at the season where David is here. And I'm going back because Mary Margaret and I are kind of reading Till We Have Faces. I mean, the Four Loves together, and then The Great Divorce. And so it's been fun to listen to some of our earlier episodes. And I'm going through Great Divorce. And I hear some of this commentary, David, about you and Marie.
Yeah. No, it's nice to see those stages, And I was grateful that our talk, this listener who contacted me had listened to Four Loves and, was going through some issues in their own life and some of their own relationships. And so reached out to me pastorally, and they said, some of the things, Andrew, that you said to Matt during the Four Loves season were really helpful. And you said this, and that's helped me. And can I ask you about that? And so, and listeners, if I can ever be a pastoral help, I mean, that sounds so stupidly presumptuous to say, but I wasn't expecting this note out of the blue. And I'm if I can ever be here and be your servant, here I am. That's part of why I do all of this.
So Andrew, we might take you, Mary Margaret and I might take you up on that offer. Maybe if you have a book suggestion for premarital and maybe do a session or two. She listened to some of these episodes. She's like, Andrew is really wise. I'd love to just chat with him at some point. And
it's the editing.
And I've always noticed that. And hopefully I've encouraged you in some of those senses or affirmed those because I've noticed them real time. But I do notice it more when I re-listen to an episode, because when you're present on an episode, you're trying to be actively listening to the other person, but you're strategically thinking a step ahead as well. So it's hard to be 100% in the present moment, hearing and receiving what a person has to say.
This is one of my suggestions. I actually gave these letters to Marie for birthday, Christmas, anniversary. Can't remember. They all blur into one. But so this is Alice von Hildebrand. She's the wife of the late Dietrich von Hildebrand, the philosopher. And these are her letters to her goddaughter during the goddaughter's early years of marriage. And it's a lot of common sense stuff, a lot of attitude stuff, and I'd say it's all gold.
I just ordered it. It's coming Saturday.
The book that I recommend, and maybe David can throw up a link, Dennis Rainey's book, Preparing for Marriage, is a little dated and a little evangelical. But it's kind of a workmanlike kind of way to go through all of the different areas. I actually have a couple of kind of former Catholic, former student, and his there we go. Thank you. His soon-to-be wife. Yep, Preparing for Marriage. I think that's the one. I had trouble getting the very latest edition, and so whatever the absolute latest one is good. But anyway, these two and I have been meeting monthly for premarital counseling and just going through the chapters of the book. And it's got a thing on finances, and it's got a thing on intimacy, and it's got a thing about your spiritual relationship. And it's got great exercises and, some graphs and things in the back, and, do an inventory with the people who love you. And so it's been a really good way to kind of cover all of those bases. And I learned early on that they were ready. They were ready within the first couple of sessions, I think. But just to raise some of the things that become stumbling blocks along the way. And so there are a number of helpful things out there, but that's been a good one to go through with them.
I just ordered both of those.
Okay, great. And yeah, Matt, anytime
we're making Jeff Bezos rich.
Do we have an Amazon affiliate? Can we at least get a little kickback for Pints with Jack? On that.
we do, and it hurts me to know that Matt didn't use it, but that's okay. That's okay.
I didn't know we have an Amazon affiliate. This is helpful. All right.
And
communication styles. All I did was send a text message, email, and tell you about it several times. How could you possibly be expected to know?
Yeah.
No, David, you need to call me up, tell it in my ear. Come on.
Just order it for him through the link.
The
and then,
half-hour mark.
Venmo him.
Tempting. But we're at the half-hour mark, so I think we'll wrap this up. I think we will have a session where we pull all of the marriage advice and whip Matt into shape as much as humanly possible.
Actually,
Mary Margaret,
one more book recommendation quickly, Matt. It's reading C.S. Lewis's Grief Observed, where he thinks about his marriage to Joy Davidman. That becomes a really helpful marriage manual, sadly. But a Grief Observed is absolutely a good one to, and it's unfortunate that I really wish that I had any collectible copies of it. So sorry in advance, Matt. I wish I had American first editions of them. Oh, it's a half dozen first editions of Grief
you have
Observed.
American first editions?
Yes, I do. Not true firsts, but subsequent. But yeah, so we can talk.
And Matt, I sent you the affiliate link in the chat. And I actually also read A Grief Observed. I think it was within the first 2 months of marriage. I wasn't quite sure what drew me to it, but it was one Saturday morning. Marie was fast asleep, and I just picked up the book and read it from cover to cover. Shed a little tear, and then went and made her breakfast.
Oh.
I love it.
Sweet.
Well, I think we should wrap up. We are overrunning before we give you even more book recommendations. So, well done, Matt.
Yes.
Thank you, guys.
Ooh, here, Korean finger heart.
David, how come yours? Oh, there we go.
Korean finger heart. Something like that? Yeah, it's like that. Something like that.
Take care, guys.
All right. See you soon.